Welcome back to my channel Celebuzz. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. How Nick Adams lost all his friends and money. Nick Adams was born with the name Nicholas Aloysius Adams Schock on July 10, 1931, in a town called Nanticoke, Pennsylvania. He grew up in a working-class Ukrainian Polish-American family during the Great Depression. His early years were hard because his family didn't have much money, and he really wanted to get away from small-town life. When his family moved to New Jersey later, Adams started dreaming about working in show business. He loved actors like James Dean and Marlon Brando, who were tough and emotional actors that changed how men acted in movies. Nick Adams really wanted to be famous, so he moved to Los Angeles in the early 1950s with very little money, but he totally believed he could make it. His first years in Hollywood were really tough. He worked lots of different jobs, like making sodas, delivering things, and even standing in for other actors, before he slowly started getting small parts in movies and TV shows. It was his hard work and never giving up that made other actors respect him. His first big break came when he got a part in a movie called Rebel Without a Cause in 1955. This was a really important movie about teenagers being angry and upset, and it had James Dean in it. Adams became close friends with Dean, though some people thought their friendship was weird. Even though Adams only had a small part in the movie, being friends with Dean got him noticed and gave him more chances in Hollywood. Adams's most famous role came in the early 1960s with a TV show called The Rebel, which ran from 1959 to 1961. In this show, he played Johnny Yuma, a guy who used to be a Confederate soldier and wandered around. The show was really popular and made Adams famous all across America. The Rebel showed that he could be both tough and sensitive at the same time, giving viewers a complicated and human Western hero. Adams helped create and write episodes of the show, proving he wasn't just good at acting, but also at telling stories and having good ideas. His character Johnny Yuma really connected with people during a time when America was changing and dealing with its history, civil rights, and what happened after World War II. Besides his TV work, Nick Adams also had a successful movie career, starring in several well-known movies in the late 1950s and 1960s. Some of these movies were No Time for Sergeants in 1958, Pillow Talk in 1959, and a bunch of science fiction movies he made with Japanese movie companies like Frankenstein Conquers the World in 1965 and Invasion of Astro Monster in 1965. These movies with other countries introduced Adams to new fans and showed that he was willing to try different kinds of acting. His willingness to work in other countries, especially when many American actors didn't want to, showed he was ready to grow as an actor and reach beyond just Hollywood. In 1963, Nick Adams got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his role in a movie called Twilight of Honor. This was a really important moment for the hardworking actor, proving that he was really talented and not just the rebel character he was known for. In the movie, he played a man with mental challenges who was accused of murder. This was a really hard role that needed deep emotions and care. Critics really praised his acting, and it showed he could do serious dramatic roles. Getting this recognition was the best moment of his career and gave him the respect he deserved in an industry that had often not taken him seriously. In 1959, Nick Adams married Carol Nugent, who used to be a child actress. At first it seemed like a happy marriage between two people who both knew what Hollywood life was like. Nugent had become somewhat famous in the entertainment business when she was young, appearing in different movies and TV shows, including an episode of The Rebel, the TV show that starred Adams. The fact that they both worked in movies may have helped them connect, but as time went on, their marriage became full of fights, separations, and public scandals. The couple had 2 children together, a daughter named Allison Adams and a son named Jeb Stuart Adams. Both kids spent parts of their childhood in the public eye, growing up while their father's career went up and down and their parents had personal problems. Jeb Stuart Adams followed his parents into acting when he was young, appearing in several movies and TV shows as a child actor in the 1970s. However, as he got older, he decided to completely leave the entertainment business and chose a more normal and private career. He became a successful person who sells houses in Ventura County, California, building a life away from the spotlight that had taken up so much of his father's energy. His work in real estate has given him a good reputation in the community, far away from the glamour and craziness of how he grew up. Allison Adams, the couple's daughter, first tried to have a creative career making movies, directing independent films and theater shows that showed her artistic feelings and strong personal beliefs. Over time, however, she changed from directing to working as someone who designs costumes, using her talents behind the scenes in theater and television. She has also become someone who strongly supports various social causes, using her platform to make people aware of political and cultural issues. In recent years, Allison has become someone who speaks up about her father's legacy, including editing and publishing his unfinished autobiography, giving the public a better look into Nick Adams' crazy life and career. Despite how promising their marriage seemed at first, Adams and Nugent's relationship became more and more strained over time. People in the industry and personal friends later said that their marriage problems, which were often described as really bitter, had started to hurt Adams' professional opportunities. After 1963, it became clear that Adams was having trouble getting the same quality of acting roles that had once made his career successful. Some people thought that the growing problems in his personal life, along with weird behavior, made him less appealing to casting directors and producers. A really shocking moment came in early 1965 during a live TV appearance on The Le Crane Show, a late-night talk show known for having honest and controversial guests. While promoting his latest movie, Young Dillinger, Adams stunned the audience and TV viewers across the country by suddenly announcing that he was leaving his wife, apparently without telling her ahead of time. This unexpected public announcement caused a big stir, not only because it was so dramatic, but also because it seemed so mean and thoughtless toward Nugent and their family. News outlets eagerly reported on what happened, and the event made the story of Adams being a troubled and unstable celebrity even stronger. Amazingly, just a week after the scandalous announcement, Adams and Nugent publicly said that they had gotten back together, once again appearing on television to say they were committed to fixing their marriage. Yet, for many people watching, the damage had already been done. Adams's reputation suffered, and the incident became a symbol of how his personal and professional life was falling apart. One person who wrote about his life later described the time that followed as a tragic freefall, which perfectly describes the sense of decline and chaos that would come to define Adams's final years. By July 1965, any hope of lasting reconciliation had disappeared, and the couple was legally separated. In September of that year, Nugent officially filed for divorce. At the time, Adams was working overseas in Japan, where he was trying to restart his career by participating in international movie projects. While he was away, Nugent was granted both a divorce and full custody of their children. The court's decision further emphasized Adams's increasingly limited role in his children's lives. Despite the legal end of their marriage, Adams and Nugent continued to make occasional public statements suggesting they might get back together. In January 1966, the couple appeared on Bill John's Hollywood Star Notebook, a local TV program, to announce yet another reconciliation. But this getting back together was short-lived and full of new problems. By November of the same year, Nugent had started divorce proceedings again. She also filed for a restraining order against Adams, presenting a legal document to the court that detailed a disturbing pattern of physical abuse. In the legal papers, she accused Adams of having fits of anger and further claimed that he had choked her, hit her, and threatened to kill her within a matter of weeks. These deeply troubling accusations painted a picture of a man in psychological crisis, spiraling under the weight of his failed career and broken personal life. The legal and emotional battles reached another dramatic peak on January 20th, 1967, when Adams, already under enormous stress from ongoing custody disputes, was unexpectedly served with a $110,000 defamation lawsuit. The lawsuit had been filed by Paul Rapp, Nugent's boyfriend at the time, and the man she would eventually marry. Rapp claimed that Adams had made slanderous statements about him, likely coming from the bitter tensions between the former spouses. This legal attack served as yet another blow to Adams's rapidly deteriorating stability. Yet, in a surprising twist, just 9 days later, Adams was temporarily granted custody of his children. According to his son, Jeb Stuart Adams, this custody arrangement was not based on a sincere desire for parenting, but rather in Adams's need to win against Nugent. He saw it as a competition basically more than anything of getting custody of us, Jeb would later remember. But the arrangement didn't last long. Within a week or two, Adams returned the children to Nugent, either realizing how hard it was to be a single parent or simply losing interest in the symbolic victory. Nugent ultimately regained full legal custody, closing a painful and tumultuous chapter in the lives of everyone involved. Nick Adams was once a rising star in Hollywood, handsome, ambitious, and relentless in trying to become famous. Known for his roles in the TV series The Rebel and movies like Rebel Without a Cause, Adams built relationships with Hollywood legends like James Dean, Elvis Presley, and Natalie Wood. He was not just another actor. He was a man who really wanted acceptance, recognition, and a permanent place among the stars. But his tragic downfall was the result of a toxic combination of insecurity, being in the spotlight too much, questionable choices, and an unstoppable need for validation that drove away nearly everyone who once cared for him and eventually left him broke and alone. From the beginning, Nick Adams was determined to make it in Hollywood, even if it meant stretching the truth or using his friendships to get ahead. He frequently name-dropped and exaggerated his connections to more famous stars, most notably James Dean. While it's true that Adams and Dean knew each other and worked together on Rebel Without a Cause, Adams often implied they were much closer than they actually were. After Dean's tragic death in 1955, Adams tried to position himself as Dean's closest friend, appearing in magazines and interviews that took advantage of the public's sadness. This obvious self-promotion was seen by many in Hollywood as tasteless and opportunistic, leading to early breaks in his friendships with other actors and industry insiders. Adams also pushed himself into the lives of other rising and established stars like Elvis Presley. He spent time with Presley during the early days of Elvis's fame. But again, Adams's constant need to photograph, publicize, and broadcast their friendship became annoying. Over time, many began to view Adams as a clout chaser, someone more interested in what he could get from others rather than genuine connection. As the Hollywood social scene evolved, Nick was increasingly seen as a hanger-on rather than a peer. Friends began to keep their distance and doors started closing. After achieving some fame with the Rebel in the late 1950s and early 1960s, Adams attempted to move into more serious movie roles. However, his ambition often outpaced his talent, and he found it difficult to secure leading roles in major motion pictures. To stay visible, he turned to lower-budget films, many of them overseas, including a string of poorly received sci-fi and monster movies made in Japan, such as Frankenstein Conquers the World. These projects paid the bills temporarily, but they hurt his reputation among Hollywood elites and reduced his long-term earning potential. Adams also developed a reputation for being difficult to work with, moody, temperamental, and obsessed with his public image. He would often rewrite lines or push for changes to scripts in an effort to stand out, irritating directors and fellow actors. The more he demanded, the fewer opportunities came his way. Eventually, the high-profile jobs dried up, and Adams found himself relying on lesser-known productions and personal appearances to sustain his career. Adams's personal life mirrored his professional troubles. He married actress Carol Nugent and they had 2 children together, but the relationship was strained by his mood swings, financial pressures, and rumors of cheating. The marriage ended in divorce, and Adams's erratic behavior, possibly made worse by prescription drug use, isolated him further from both family and friends. His former colleagues, already wary of his self-serving tendencies, now began to view him as unstable. He became increasingly paranoid and convinced that he was being blackballed by Hollywood for reasons he couldn't understand. Rather than taking responsibility for his actions or thinking about how his manipulative tactics had pushed people away, Adams often blamed others for his declining fortunes. He spoke publicly of conspiracies, of jealousy within the industry, and of being a misunderstood genius. This only served to confirm what many already thought, that Nick Adams was spiraling. As his acting career dwindled, so did his finances. Once able to afford a comfortable lifestyle, Adams found himself in debt, struggling to maintain appearances, while his earnings disappeared. He had invested heavily in trying to revive his career, hiring publicists, launching writing projects, and maintaining a lavish image, all of which only drained his dwindling savings. By the mid-1960s, Nick Adams was effectively broke and socially isolated. He made desperate attempts to reignite his fame, even pursuing legal action to demand roles or attention. But nothing worked. The studios had moved on, and so had the people he once called friends. He was a cautionary tale in an industry that thrives on youth, charisma, and goodwill, none of which he had left. On February 7, 1968, Nick Adams was found dead in his home at just 36 years old. The cause of death was officially ruled as a drug overdose, though the exact circumstances remain unclear. Whether accidental or intentional, his untimely end was a sad conclusion to a life that had once held so much promise. Surrounded by press, clippings, and memories of a brighter past, he died alone, with few friends left to mourn him, and little money to show for a decade of fame.